Oops, you know what? Let me get my right camera on here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
See if that works out. Okay. All right, perfect. Awesome. Today, I want to look at a deal because we haven't looked at a deal in a while. And then we'll open up for any kind of questions. So we'll start with that because I want to make sure, even though we've been doing a lot of construction, I always want to make sure we're constantly thinking about like analyzing deals, what we need to do, staying sharp as much as possible. There's just a tremendous amount of value watching me break a deal down and understanding that, kind of taking away how I might be doing it differently, what you could improve, or just, just seeing it done. I believe that when you see things done and you watch them and you watch it enough, it starts to create like a routine and you start to see the little fine differences. If you watch me do almost anything when it comes to comping, it comes to doing deals, analyzing a deal, it's very systematic. Like the way I comp even, I've broke down to like, I do this first, I do this second, I do this third, because if you do anything in a very clear system, you take the time to map it out, then what starts to happen is you start to do a little bit of like what we call like, like auto drive, right? Like you're driving home and you forgot how you got home, but you just got, because you do it every day, right? It just gets automatic and easy. So when I comp, instead of going in and trying to figure out my game plan on a fly, I know that I always do everything in a very specific order, because now when I comp, I can do it really quickly. You guys watch me comp, I can do it pretty fast because, we need to look at a lot of deals. So in a few minutes when everyone gets on, we'll give a couple minutes for everyone and then we'll jump in. I'd like to evaluate a deal one of the students has. The numbers look pretty good based on what he told me, but we want to kind of just look at it and make sure they're actually good, that he's not missing anything. And that's what he was looking for, some senior review essentially. I do that even within my company. Like Tanya's been doing this for a while now. Dave worked with me for 4 years and I still had a senior review because 2 heads are better than 1. Right? We look at things together. I'm able to come into and use my critical thinking mind and just really look at the details, ask tough questions, start really auditing the deal and seeing is, okay, what's missing? What have I missed? What are they missing? What can we, where's our risk at? What can we do to make this seem, or be much better? So that's true across all boards, right? When we're working with contractors, we're finding deals, we're analyzing, we're negotiating. We're always looking for improvement. We're always analyzing the best practice that we can use or do, because that's super important. And that never ending growth is a big part of like having a very high level competitive advantage as a house flipper, is never stopping growing. Like today I'm personally working on, obviously, I've been working on that contractor funnel for like a year now. And I think it just got to the point where it's like working for everyone really well. And now I'm going back through and, we're working on our PPC to take it to the next level. So a couple people that are doing some PPC stuff will be able to benefit from that. We're working on more contractor stuff, like getting in even more into the nuts and bolts. And Saturday, we have a call that we're going to be doing as a bonus call. It'll be this same link, by the way, in case you don't get anything. It'll be Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern time. And that will be about business planning. So we're going to talk a little bit about planning, the one thing, like how to really dive in and get real clear about what we want to focus on. Because, the difference in you having a great year next year and being great at anything is just knowing what to focus on. So when we're comping, there's some things we focus on. When we're business strategizing, there's some things we focus on. So I got some really cool stuff I wanted to show you that is the big difference maker in my business planning process. And so if you can make it Saturday at 9, it will be recorded. If not, be put up on the Q&A, so you guys will have access to that if you can't make it, if you got some family stuff or whatever. Call should be about an hour. We're going to keep it pretty tight, concise. It's not going to be a call. We're open to like other questions. We are going to focus just on the business planning. If you've never done a deal, your business planning, we can still do it, right? Because your business plan for the year might be, let's get my first deal done, right? It might be, let's knock that out. If you're doing your first deal, it might be, okay, let me finish this deal and get deal 2 and 3 set up for 2020, and here's what I want to make on it, here's what I want to do. But the secret in the business planning will be when we get the opportunity to really hone in on the activities that create the biggest result. And a cool thing about the one thing book that I've been recommending everyone to read, because I'm reading it right now, a couple of my higher level students are, is it says that, the one thing is always finding that one thing that will make everything else either easy or unnecessary. And the one thing is like knowing like what is the biggest driver that will move the lever. So in flipping, what I found over the years is that finding deals is a one thing. right? Hiring great contractors, you finish on time, and having a consistent funnel that you can bring in talent to do the work. That's a one thing. And then selling your products, for top dollar and for the most money, and getting the best buyer who settles on time. That is another thing that we totally focus on. So there's a lot of things revolved around those three subjects. But the one thing is accomplishing what we just said. So everything we're doing, we're always considering, will that support the one thing? Will that help me find more deals that are better? Will that help me find better contractors that are awesome? Will that help me sell my houses for more? And so we run everything through that filter, and we're business planning. We want to think about next year, how do we find more deals, get them done better, faster? How do we get better at the construction now that we know more? And, how do we run our funnels better? And then how do we ensure at the end that the house is done in a way that looks nice enough and priced in a way that's going to make it sell super fast and get a great buyer and get a great offer that'll more consistently get the settlement and make more profit more often. So that's the stuff we really want to focus on. So let's jump in. We got a deal we want to review. Let's share my screen very quickly. And we're going to jump on the MLS. Let's see if we can make that happen. I'll move this back a little bit. I think there's actually a little thing that moves this. Okay, got it. Let's do that. All right, so share screen. And we're going to jump on the MLS, analyze the deal. Probably takes about 10 or 15 minutes, and I'll open up the floor for any questions you guys might have. And if you have any questions as we're analyzing the deal, like any little details you want to jump into, feel free to ask me, because obviously we're doing this, but we're also teaching at the same time. So this is actually funny little story. I mean, I used to just always put my password in. Somehow I didn't know you could save it anymore. They used to not let you save it. You can actually save it. So that's part of the process. It saves me a lot of time, auto filling it in. But every time, you'll notice I go to the same thing. I hit search, I hit residential, I come in. Usually the residential does that sometimes, but it should come to here. And I'm always like 0.5, right? And then I come over here and I'm going to pop the address in. Give me a second. I got to grab that. I'll see what the address is. Normally, I've already copied and pasted it. If it's emailed to me, I copy and paste it. And it might be emailed to me. Let's see. I think it was actually text to me, so I won't work on this one. Let's see. Okay, actually sent me a MLS number, which is unusual, but let's try that. See, MD, BC, 482, 102. So future reference, and I'm sure you'll be listening to this, send me an email so I can copy and paste, because that took a lot of time. That's messing up my whole vibe here. Yeah, I did. I guess I did mean. I don't even know. Let's see. Okay, there it is. So here's our address. We're going to have to start over and go a little bit different on this. But so let's look at the property that we're paying attention to first. So we see this is in Catonsville. I'm always going to look at the map really quickly. I'm also going to take the pics and just shoot through those very fast. We don't have many. So it just looks like we got this house here, which I have a hard time really seeing a lot, but it does look like it's a split foyer. It's 5'2", 1,800 square feet. It's as is. It says a split level. Perfect. That's what we would have thought. Its subdivision is Golf Park Acres. Currently, right now, it's 900 below grade. So it does have a basement. That's awesome. It looks like it's definitely a distressed sale. It's 5 days on the market. All negotiations through. Lister as is. I don't know what that means. Let's go back and read the remarks to see if there's any clues in the remarks of things. Investor alert, grab this once you're in a price home. It's original beauty, rolled up your sleeves and imagine this transformation. Short drive to the beach. Short drive to the beach. What beach is that? Ain't no beach around there. Okay, that's a weird thing to put in there, but showings are by appointment only. Call the agent and personal tour. Okay, this golf course community. So it's in Catonsville. So I don't know if anybody knows any beaches in Catonsville, but what beach they're talking. I guess they're talking about Ocean City, but that's yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, so that was a weird thing to put in the listing, but just found that funny. So what I'm going to do, though, so I can go back and do this the normal way, is I'm going to copy and paste this. I do know this is a very good area around there, and now we know all the kind of the facts about it, right? That's what I was taking in. 5'2", 1,800 square feet. It's a split level. It's on Valley Road. So now let's go back and do this again. Now that we have the information, and we'll go 0.50. Copy and paste that in. It gives us the address. We click it. We're going to come down here. We're going to go about 1,000 days back because I really like to see a lot of data around these. I like to get a little more specific. We are going to put some square footage in. So we know it was 1,800. So obviously I want to see everything that's smaller. I don't care about that. But I don't want to see things that are much bigger. So maybe 2,100 max. I don't want to see things that are 2,500, 3,000. That's a little too much to see. And we only got 3 matches, which, hold on, and maybe that's because of the square footage. Went a lot of days back. Oh, we got 100 back. That's the problem. Actually, I took a 0. I was like, my 100's not very long. Okay, now we're looking good. We got 16. A little bit on the low end, but let's take a look at it. Not quite as many as we would like. So first thing we want to take a quick look at is that I don't see anything on Valley Road that's sold. Now what I want to do, because I really do want to see things on my street, I'm going to go ahead and take off, I'm just going to take this size piece off in case that's hurting anything. Sometimes the size isn't all that accurate. We got 24 matches. Let's see if we can find anything on Valley Road. Okay, still have not found anything on Valley Road, which makes me wonder, what's the deal with Valley Road? I mean, seeing ours, it's active. So now I see nothing on Valley Road. I'm a little bit concerned that Valley Road might be a weird street. I kind of know it's not, but it's something we need to explore. So that my process is, because I'm seeing no comps on Valley, I might want to just go back and see if I can find a way to get anything on Valley. Maybe go 1,500 days back even. And let's see if we can put Valley in. Let's see where our street name is. I forgot where to put it. Oh, street. Got it, Valley. And okay, should we go and see what happens here, if that helps. No matches still. Oh, very curious, but let's go and get Valley out and see. So I would love to see some stuff on Valley Road other than ours. Well, there's absolutely nothing on Valley
Mike,
Road. Yep.
spelled Valley wrong.
Oh, I know, but I'm still looking here. I have nothing spelled now. I got rid of it.
All right.
So there's no Valley in, but I noticed that after the fact. But yeah, there's nothing on Valley Road here, and this is open to everything, a half mile. So what we're going to do is go to here, and I want to take now a look at the map and try to figure out why that might be. So I'm going to hone in on this because I'm wondering, like, what's up with Valley Road? So Valley Road to me looks like a busier street. We can tell that because it's wider. We can also tell that a lot of our comps are going to be back in here. It being a busier street, it's really important that we would see something on that road. And it's pretty interesting that we're not seeing anything on Valley Road. So I'm going to go and do one more adjustment to my look. And I'm going to go here now. I'm taking what I want to do now is I'm going to go back to the criteria because I'm really pretty pumped. I kind of want to see Valley Road here. We'll go a little farther out because maybe it's a little, let's see if we can do 1.0, go a mile out. We're 1,500 days back. I mean, it would be nice to see something on Valley Road here. Well, now we got a lot. I guess we get, so let's see if there's anything on Valley Road, maybe over a half mile. This Valley Road is tricky. So processes, if we don't find anything on Valley Road, and then what we're going to do next is we're going to tighten it down and only look at things that are really close to Valley Road. And I know that's not going to be the most accurate way of doing it, but it's all we have. So we're going to know that, like, based on the fact that I'm still seeing nothing on Valley Road, which is somewhat concerning. I'm wondering why, like, nothing else is sold on Valley Road. Like, what's stopping it from selling, or there's just no houses on that street. But we do want some comps on the street if possible, even just to get a feel if there's anything weird. There's our house right there. Okay, plus we're getting into some really low numbers now, so it wouldn't even matter. Okay, so there's absolutely nothing on Valley Road. So here we go. This is the third revision because this one's tough. We're going to go back to 1,000 days. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just make this a lot closer. So I got 1 mile, but I'm going to go like maybe 0.3. 0.3 is very close. That's going to be, we didn't get a lot from that, you can see. So these are all things that are pretty close. We got 1,800 square feet. Let's just start looking at the houses around us and see if we can find stuff that's really similar to our house. So this first house, no. This maybe, Hilltop Road, 390 something. 1,700 square foot, 3.3, that looks similar. We got Fairway Road, it's 390, it's only 1,200 square feet. We got Fairway Avenue, this is very similar a house, it's 380. We got this house on Hilltop, 350. Again, these all are clearly houses that were as good as or better This one even looks a lot like ours. It's on Wilkins Avenue, 280. It's only 1,000 square feet. I mean, based on these comps, I think Gigi said he thought it was 390. I would say based on these, I somewhat agree. The question mark right now for me is the Valley Road is like it's a busy street. So I'm concerned that if it's a busy street, like, you know, how could that affect the value? And like, and the fact that we can't look on Valley Road is a little bit troubling. So I'm going to go back now and just now that I've seen a few houses, let's see if we see like this one looks a lot like us. Okay, so that's 380. Similar, it's only 1,300 square feet. It's not even really rehabbed. It's very nice. It's very close to us, by the way. We can see it isn't on the busy street, but you can see it's on Fairway Avenue. There's Valley Road. It's very close to us. The question I'd have now is like, so, and this is going to be a little more difficult to figure out, but on Valley Road, the question I would have is how busy is the street? How far are we set off the street? I'm not afraid of busy streets. I just want to make sure we're priced accordingly to that busy street. If we come in here and we look, we can see the top of the market as we look through this. We get rid of that one right there because that one doesn't count. It's 3,000 square foot. But right past that, the top of the market is just 391. So the top of the market's 391 for that area for the, you know, similar in this house. I think we might be a little better in this house. Let's see if it's even, yeah, it's very nice. So it's our house probably be nicer, but very nice house. 1,700 square foot, 3.3. See if it had any subsidy. But it's 390 and no help, 8 days on the market, sold very quickly. So I have no doubt that this Valley Road house will sell. And again, you can see this one was pretty close to the busier street too, but it wasn't on it. None of these are on the busier streets, if that makes sense. They're on, you know, they're not on the busier street. Valley Road is a very nice street, by the way. I happen to know the area. So I know it is a busier street and it's a very nice road. But with that being said, it is a busier road. So usually in my experience on Valley Road, I mean, it could be 390, but people won't pay the same price on a busy street as they'll pay off a busy street. So we have to make some adjustment. And if we're looking at like the high comp being 390, which I think we probably would be if we were on one of those streets, we've got to take at least 20K or 25K off. So I'm probably thinking that it's more like a 375 because if you're not priced better on the busy street, then people will buy the house not on the busy street. That's just always the way it's going to be. You got to have some kind of discount on the busy street. But let's say that we'll use that another thing that he came up with, and I don't have any inside pictures, but he told me that he thought it was 100K in work. Well, the good news is I doubt it's 100K in work. It looks pretty bad, but it's probably more like 70, 80K in work. And right now, when he gets me a video, I'll give him better detail on that. I'm probably going to go ahead and hang my hat on 375. Can you guys all see why I'm doing that? Again, this is a quick decision. You know, this ain't the end of the road. This will be up for discussion from this point on. But what I want everyone to do when you're looking at a deal is I want you to make a quick assessment. Don't think it's the final assessment. Just know that it's your quick assessment. My quick assessment is that the house that was 390 and the 380 homes were only like 1,300 square foot. We're like 1,800. We got a nice house. It looks like it's on a nice lot. I think our house is as good as any house in that neighborhood. The busy street is why I'm reducing down a little bit for the busy street. Most of those houses didn't look renovated either. So if we put in and we look at this deal, we throw it in our flip analyzer. Let's just take a quick look at it. See how that might work. Like I already got it up. 1 second. Got to move you guys out of my way here. I don't know how to do that. Okay, cool. Got that up. Let's pull this up real fast. Minimize you guys and move you over here. So if we use 375, it's 1,700 square foot split level. I mean, even if the thing is like a train wreck, like 80K covers that usually. And it looks like it could be a train wreck. He said he thought he could get it for 180, which I think is a good number. And he put 5 months in. Let's get 10 and 2, probably be in that ballpark. Let's do 12 and 2 just in case. He'll be more 5% because I don't think he has an agent license. Yeah, 4,000 taxes should be fine. I mean, the deal is really solid at 180, and let's just pretend that it is more like 90, or let's even just put it at the 100 that he wants. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to buy it. I mean, because even at 40K, I'd be all over this house at 180. Because look, we're using a more conservative ARV. We're using, I would say, at 100, a way conservative number. I know 100K is a lot to spend on a house like that. So even if we're using two things, lower ARV and a higher rehab cost, and the deal still makes a lot of sense at 40,000 bucks. So for me personally, I would say that, this kind of deal, he's supposed to meet them on Wednesday and today's Tuesday. I would be really working like to go there and when he sees it tomorrow, try to get the deal done. I'd probably even be willing to buy the deal like kind of sight unseen with those kind of numbers. Knowing I got 100K, there's really not anything I couldn't fix in this house with 100K. If it had foundation problems, it had all kind of stuff, we could get that into 100K. So personally, I'm going to text him and let him know that this is a very hot number, looks really good, and what he might want to consider if he gets in there is not as bad. He might. I know he says he thinks he can get it for 180, but what's important is when it's listed for 198. What I would be doing, and this is why I win a lot of deals, and why most people don't win a lot of deals, is because they're trying to get this for 180. Personally, I'd be focused on doing this for 80K, which I think it actually is more like 80K, and really getting that number right. And now I can actually pay the 198 it's listed for. Because see, I know on a deal in a nice neighborhood like that, that's going to get a lot of action, the number's really good on it. There's not a lot of chance that the bank's going to let me slip 180 through. Just not. I mean, you can go for it if you think you can get it, great. But if you feel like you're not getting it, then you could be missing a great opportunity at 198. So I'm always personally going to lean towards paying the higher number in a competitive situation. The fact that this is in Old Valley Road in Catonsville, which is the best part of Catonsville, a really good area. The fact that it's a nice, 1,800 square foot house, it needs work. It's priced, near 200K under the ARV. I know there's going to be a lot of action on this. I just have to use common sense and say there's going to be a lot of people trying to win this deal. So my mission would be to try to get it as cheap, get it as cheap as possible, but make sure you pay enough to be in the game. At 180,
Amen.
I would guess that it's not going to happen.
Now, quick question: How are you able to squeeze the budget 20K?
Well, he said 100. It's not 100, so I didn't squeeze it 20K. It's just not 100. He's overdoing it.
Oh,
80 is like the most you can spend on a house. That's a lot different house. Like you got like 70 or so on yours, and yours is like you have way more work in yours than this house. This is a split level. Split levels generally are built in the 50s and 60s. For the most part, the layouts aren't going to be completely rearranged. You're probably going to open up one or two walls. They're not completely being redesigned. They generally don't have knob and tube electric because they're too new. So there's like a bunch of things that can really tackle cost that you won't have to do on the house, if that makes sense.
gotcha.
So when you're in a newer home like that, the layout is going to be less layout. There's going to be less major things. You probably can save the siding, repair it and paint it. You might be able to save windows sometimes. You often can save electric and plumbing and just repair it versus gutting it all new. And then, you don't have to do crazy amount of layout changes. So generally like 80 on a house like that is pretty like kind of doing everything. Right, I would be doing everything. So I'm not squeezing it as much as I feel. When he told me 100, I thought that would be high. Now I've seen the home, I'm guessing 80 on the high end, but he hasn't given me any pictures yet. So obviously, when we get in the house, he can give me a video and pics. I'll be able to get a better understanding. But right now, I want to look at it as my best guess is that if I had to buy this house and never look on the inside, I would say that I would be often right at 80K or better or happy. Worst scenario would be 80. If I got to 100 on a house like that, it'd be hard to get to 100. I'd have to really have a lot of crazy stuff going on. But that's why I would look at it before I deliver the deposit. But if they would put it under contract for 180 today, I'd be like, put it under contract today, and then you're not delivering your deposit until tomorrow anyhow. At 180, I wouldn't even look at it. Because like at 180, the deal is like crazy good.
Gotcha. Okay, appreciate that, Mike.
So that's the way I'm looking at this deal. So personally, if I was competing for this and I was looking for a house, I'd be like 80K worst case scenario. And if they told me, yeah, we can sell it to you for 180 sight unseen, I'd be like, cool, there's 180, 60,000 in work. Then what I would do is probably go break into the back door and look at it, or go look at it before I give the deposit. So, I would just do something like that, or I don't know. They don't have any pictures. I would just ask for additional pictures, maybe just anything to confirm like there is an inside. And why is it showing only? Like you got to be shown it because that might mean someone actually lives there. If someone actually lives there, then we know for a fact they cannot be more than 80. Because like for it to be more than 80, it would have to be like condemned with the roof caving in. Like it'd have to be like Steven Cinnamon's house, like missing back roof or something, or fire damage or something really bad. For a house like that. So I don't see, obviously we only had 3 pictures, but if I went and looked at the outside, I could, even if I couldn't get in, I could look at the outside and tell, okay, there's no major fire damage. There's no sunroof on the house. There's nothing crazy going on. So keep in mind, I'm making a lot of assumptions, but I'm making these assumptions when I'm in a very safe place. So as I'm negotiating and tying a deal down, this is the best time to make these assumptions, because I don't have to. I can go in there and say, yeah, I'll take it for 180. Send me the paperwork over. I can sign the paperwork, and until I decide I'm going to actually give the deposit, I get a little bit of time to think it over. I had a deal last week. I told you guys that I got. Remember that deal? I thought it over and I gave it back. You know what? Totally cool, right? I mean, I don't know if you were on the call where I worked over that deal and I thought it was a pretty good deal that I got on HUD. Well, I thought it over and I started looking at a little more details, and I'm like, I'm putting a small addition on. I'm only making like 35K. I got too many houses right now. And me and my brother, we figured out a new strategy. We actually declined it, and then we're going to put a new offer in for 10K less. And I think we'll get it accepted. We'll have a shot at least. So because for 10K more, I think it would be, more worth my time. Whether I get it or not, I was okay to do that because I had enough deals at the time. I didn't really need a deal. So that's the best time to be a little more picky. But I was able to change my mind, even though we were under contract. We just didn't send a deposit in, and we just declined it, which you can do. So what we're really trying to create is the opportunity to take it away from everyone else and give yourself a like 24-hour period before you deliver the deposit to think it over even more before you follow through, because that's kind of the way I like to work. But based on my assumptions and everything I see, I know that would not be likely a waste of my time. I know that once I do deeper research, there's a good chance I'll be able to make this deal work. But if I did find that there was something there that I just couldn't, figured out, and I do find it, then I'm totally okay with just giving it back or just not delivering the deposit. So the key right now is that you get none of these opportunities if you wait too long. Because when something's priced well in a good neighborhood, in my experience, it has, and it's already 5 days on the market. Well, I'm curious what's going on. Like, why isn't it sold yet? So I don't know. We'll see. I have to get more detail, but I have a lot of questions about the deal. I'm going to probably need to talk to Gigi about it and just find out what's going on. There's a lot of question marks. There's something weird going on with it because it should already be under contract, but we'll find out. So anyhow, that's my feedback. I'm going to give that to him too, in case he's not on, and he had to wait because I think he said he was going to meet him there tomorrow and look at it. But numbers look solid. I just want to figure out like what is the best way to get into the deal. And I'm thinking through like potential downsides, potential risk, things that like if I know it's a good number in a good neighborhood, I don't want to mess around and try to be, let me make 60K. But he said he already had them agree to 180. But my guess is that was a very loose agree, and you still got to put it in. It's still got to beat the other offers. So just because the agent says, how many times I have an agent tell me I can get a deal done at a number, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh yeah, they took a higher number. Because the agent isn't the final decision maker. The agent's just telling you what they think they can do. Right? And then often they're not always right. They're not the final decision maker. So what I have to do is I have to actually, instead of listen to the agent, I have to think about the seller and think how the seller is doing business and will likely 180 get through. The answer in this situation is very unlikely that 180 is going to get through unless there's something crazy going on with this house that like me or Gigi don't know about, and he'll find out tomorrow, which I wouldn't think there is, but there could be. With that being said, I don't think that the seller is going to just be like, yeah, let me take 180 because the agent told me to, because he's going to likely have other offers at 190, 200 in his hand that are going to be better. And that offer is just going to fall through, and the agent's going to come back to Gigi and tell him, oh, my bad, it didn't work out. So we have to anticipate what might not work out. So my experience, if it's the MLS, if you want my secrets to winning the MLS, is I put my best foot forward on my offer. I don't try to get rich on a deal, because see, a deal like this, we know that house looks better than most of the comps. We've underpriced it about 20K or 15, 20K, for the busy street. But we do know that most of the houses we were looking at weren't renovated. It's a very desirable neighborhood, and it's a very low inventory neighborhood. So there's a pretty decent chance that somebody might actually come and say, yeah, I'll pay more than 375. Or we get in there and we can do it for 70, right? Who knows? These are all things that could go in our direction that can make our deal even sweeter. So yeah, I'm okay making 40 on it because I know there's upside to it. Yeah, not every time, but if I did that same flip 500 times, I would, 70% of the time, I would get like some upside. So I'm okay with that because I know on a good day, I can make more money. And if I make 40, no complaints either, by the way. Totally happy making 40, but it's pretty nice when you get upside and you make 50 or 60. So that's my overall thought process. Any questions around that? see who got on real quick. I'll bring you guys back now. All right. Well, then how about some general questions, if that's all pretty clear?
Hey, Mike,
Hey, Jeff.
could you publish today the schedule for your your regular scheduled calls? And also, Wade doesn't get them. I was wondering if you guys could send the notice to both of us because we're not always in the same place at the same time.
Well, here's how simple it is. Take that link that I gave you today and save it in your phone somewhere. It's every Tuesday at 12 o'clock and 6:30. And the only time if it changes is when you'll need to know. But it's just 12 o'clock on Tuesday and 6:30 on Tuesday for you guys. That's going to be our standard time. Next week, we don't have a call because I'll be on a cruise. And Glory just said she wants to salsa dance with me and we're not going to do calls. And I was like, salsa dancing's at 12. So I'm totally like, can't do a call. So blame Glory if you guys have questions. What we're going to do in to help out is Saturday morning at 9, I'm going to do a 1-hour session in Miami where I'll be at that time. And I'm going to do a business planning session just as a little bonus, something we can do instead. And generally you won't find too many weeks. I really, it's like 1 week a year that you'll miss me. When I vacation any other time, I do it in a place where I have Wi-Fi strategically. This boat is the only situation where I can't work the Wi-Fi thing out because, I paid for the best Wi-Fi last year and it sucked. And it was like $500, $400 or something. It was crazy and it did not work at all. So it was not good. We couldn't get on a Zoom call, couldn't do anything. And I was ready to throw my computer off the boat. And then I got butthurt because I spent like $380 on the Wi-Fi. So this year I decided not to try, and I'll do like Saturday while I'm still in Miami and I have Wi-Fi and I'm good. And then I guess I'll just enjoy myself. I don't do much vacationing, so I'll actually vacation for real, minus the speaking I'm doing. So that'll be the only week. So normally Tuesday at 12, and then for a higher level group is Tuesday at 5. For anyone who's in the higher level, I know 1 or 2
So
people.
you said Tuesday at 12 and then Tuesdays at 6:30?
6:30, yes. That's our
Right.
standard time every week, and we try to keep that as much as humanly possible. I don't change it unless I have to. Like holidays, we changed it because it seemed like Christmas Eve was on Tuesday and then New Year's Eve was on Tuesday. So that was why we changed it on the Tuesday. It just happened to be a bad day with the holidays this year. But beyond that, we try to keep it. We'll really try to keep that very, very rigid with it as much as so you can expect it. And if there's a change, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you used to do twice a week, didn't you? Or is it just Tuesdays now?
Well, it's just Tuesday, but it is twice a week. It's 2 calls a week. They're just on Tuesdays.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so they're just both on Tuesday, and I'm doing it because that way I can do a 6:30. I can't do the 6:30 on Thursdays, and honestly, that's my schedule changed that I can't do the Thursdays. I'd have to do it earlier, and for some people they can't do 3 and 4 o'clock. So I'm doing both of them on Tuesday because I just blocked the whole day out of being like I end up on calls till 8 o'clock at night, and then it's all fine. I can help as much as possible, and so it's still 2 calls a week. Just both are on Tuesday instead of Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay, good. So we'll try to call in on Saturday. We'll actually be at the Grand Canyon, but we'll try to call in from there.
Awesome. Yeah, you can do it on your phone likely if you have any Wi-Fi. I found that Zoom works better on phones with phone Wi-Fi than it does with home Wi-Fi. I don't get that. I mean, I did a Zoom call with one of my coaches when I was in LA, and I was like, I'm on my cell phone. It's like better than my computer half the time. So I don't know. So Zoom does very well with phones if you have any signal. But yeah, if not, it'll be recorded and you can check it out. And it's going to be decent training. It's only going to be an hour, maybe an hour and a half tops. So I'm trying to keep it to an hour because it's Saturday morning. I don't want it to go too long. But really just about planning and getting detailed. We can answer questions. What other questions do you guys have as far as like finding deals, anything I can help with, and any feedback on just analyzing deals? Because I can tell you that when we're finding them, this is the big part of winning, right? It's being very strategic. And the strategic analyzation of the deal is the difference of why I can go and win deals on demand. It's not because I have a secret back door to get great deals. It's kind of like what I'm doing is my secret back door, right? It's my process. It's the ability to look at the layout, analyze the deal from so many different angles, and then come up with a strategy that's going to help me win more often. So I'm thinking of all the things I've seen and done and learned over the years, and I'm pulling that into a decision-making process. I'm sharing that process with you so you can use it yourself, and you can take and learn a lot of the stuff I've learned over years without have to go through like years of doing it. So helps you get cut in line a little bit. It is I believe there's a lot of shortcuts for things, but definitely there's the fast pass. So let's call it more like a Disney fast pass. All right, you're going to get through to go take the short line to get to the ride, and that's like learning from others and me sharing my experiences with you, and then paying attention to your own experiences as you would live those and go through them and learn from them.
Thanks.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
Hey, I've got a question as far as like how do you balance managing your rehab as far as looking for new deals and prospecting?
So good question. Someone asked me that earlier, and I think it was a kill asked me that. And so that's a great question. How I answered him is when you're in your first rehab, I don't get too worried about finding your next deal until you really feel like you got a good handle on that rehab. And what's a really good handle is once you're getting to the granite, you got the paint done, and now you're kind of just finishing it out. That would probably be a good time. But it wouldn't be a wrong move on your first rehab to just do it, stay 100% present, don't divide your attention, and just nail it, right? Get it right, because I think too often people want to do too many rehabs and then they get none of them right. But like the big accomplishment for any of you guys in this program is if you do your first house and you cash a check and you make money, you've just done something that most others haven't. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys know the math. I do. I study it. The math is that, well, first of all, like it's 8 to 10% of the people who join like coaching programs will ever even do a deal, right? Of the 8 to 10% that do a deal, like 80+% of them will not make money or make any kind of money worth talking about. So they won't have a successful deal. And then to make like 30 to 40K, that gets down to about 5% of the people will make that kind of money on their first deal. So it's pretty unusual that people actually make really good money. So if you can get yourself in that top 10% of like results for your first deal, it helps psychologically put you in a really amazing position. So like Samira, she worked her butt off, right? But her first deal made money. We know it did well, I'm sure. I don't know the exact math, but it definitely didn't make like 5K. It did really well, I'm sure, because we got a lot more extra money than we thought. She probably spent a little extra money on the budget like most of us do on our first flip, but the outcome was really good. And so she made some cash, and that's going to make her want to do this again. I hope, at least. She's on the call, so I'm assuming you want to do it again. But if she would have done all that work and made 5 or 10K, she might be having a different conversation with herself. She might be like, you know what, maybe I need to go back to a job, or maybe, you know what, maybe I need something very different. So making money on your first flip is your number one priority, because psychologically it's going to help you do great. So if, yes, you lost the opportunity to find a new deal because you were just saying, you know what, I'm just going to take this current deal and make the most of it, and then that would be totally worthwhile and totally worth your time. So personally, I would say, like, I wouldn't start worrying about another deal until like this one is like kind of in the bag and feeling really good. And then we can dive into it. Like we can go in quick and find you a deal, get your next deal. But secondarily, you got to have the money for the next deal too. So the question you always have to ask is, do I have the money? Do I have to sell deal 1 in order to have the money for deal 2? If the answer is I can swing it, I can get a loan, do some head loan, do like some gap funding or something just to hold me over until deal 1 sells, then no problem. But if you don't have the money, then obviously it's going to create financial stress, then don't do that. But personally, I just would say really focus on deal 1 and finishing it out and getting it right, nailing it, bringing it home. And then, because once you're selling it, that won't require as much of your time. That'll be the heavy lifting, and that will be the realtor will be doing. You will just have to take care of repairs and a couple things, but it wouldn't really be a big deal to be looking for a deal at that time. So personally with a kill, I was like, keep your eyes open. Something good comes up and you can afford to buy it, fine. Just don't prioritize your flip first, because if you nail that first flip and you get a good result, I mean, I would say that I don't know the numbers of this, but I'm going to give you my gut feeling around it, which is unusual. I like to give you exact numbers, but I would say that's a very high ratio. So I can say this conclusively. People who have success on their first deal and do it through a system that's repeatable tend to stay in flipping way more often than people who don't. So if somebody's had bad first deal, they generally tend to they never shake it. And, not saying they haven't recovered from it. My first couple deals were good. I didn't have a bad deal until my 5th one. By then though, I had some money. So I lost 30,000 on my 5th deal, but I had some money to play with. You know, it was like I basically just lost some of the 120K or 150K I made. So it's like it sucked, but it wasn't the end of the world. I also then fixed the problem, so I would never do that again. It's like many things we do in flipping. I didn't have a coach at that time. I had a coach that taught me how to find deals, and he was very good at that, but he didn't teach me how to rehab. He didn't teach me how to sell them. You know, he taught me one of the three things. I had to learn the other two things in the school of hard knocks. There's really no coach out there that teaches like rehabbing. There's nobody. They're all teaching how to find deals, which is finding deals is definitely one of the major things you want to be good at. But you know, so I spent all my years learning that. And it wasn't until I spent then when I changed and shifted my time and said, you know what, the construction piece is like where I'm losing all my capital and then not selling it for enough money. Those two things are like, that's legitimately like, she could have spent way more money on her flip rice and mirror. She could have spent way more money and she could have easily sold it for way less. And if you put those two things in place, let's say she spent 10 more K and sold it for 20 less K, like that would have definitely taken her profit down to something not very exciting. So you can see how like I love just using, if you're okay with that, Samir, I love using it as an example because it's very fresh and new. But like just the details, selling it for a little more, and then the overall fight that she put in the whole time to keep the cost as low as humanly possible. Like that's a big deal because I mean she was working super hard. She didn't do everything perfectly, but the time that she put in and that energy and her putting on her belt, her little tape measure and trying to look like contractor and her hard hat. She's like, I feel like she was on HCTV. You know
You're
what I mean?
terrible.
You're running around like you're on
No.
HC, but when
And
you
I-
did that, you cut your costs down.
Yeah, and I felt extra pressure though because it was listed during the holidays too.
Yeah.
So I felt like an extra added pressure. And then, you know, at the 11th hour, we're going back to the table renegotiating things. And I'm like,
Yeah. These are, by the way, those things are super annoying, but they're normal. So at the end of the day, they're very normal things that happen. And, you know, they were more probably induced. And this is what we learn to control in the future. I have these happen sometimes where I like lose deals because my team doesn't follow the systems and I have to jump in. I'm like, crap. Like, and the system is that they didn't follow is not in the selling piece. It's in the quality control piece. So the quality control piece, why I did that training on the quality control is because the quality control piece, if you don't go above and beyond with it, it will sabotage you last minute sometimes. And you know, that's okay. Like it's not going to happen. We're not going to get, you know, perfect. There's no such thing. So we know that we can't be perfect as much as we'd like to be. We just want to minimize it. We want to learn from it every time it happens. So I would say the difference in me today versus me 5 years ago is that the issues that you had, they come up for me still, just not as often. And as you get better and your quality control gets tighter and you get a clearer understanding and more of a critical eye, they'll happen to you a lot less. And then your stress level gets to go down a little bit. So overall, we get to get less stressed out by doing a flip.
Yeah. And it didn't help with me being away for the holidays as well. I won't ever do that again.
I would recommend you do it every time. And then you know what? Because I know it feels like, well, I'm not going to do that again because it was stressful. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, it worked out. And the time you got to spend with your family, whatever, maybe you lost a couple grand in negotiating and a couple things not going right. I think it was totally worth the time you got to spend with your family. So I would personally say that you learn the most when you're traveling in the higher level group. Ray and everyone is coming to the understanding that when we travel, we get more in tune with being okay with things not being perfect. The best businesses are ran messy until they're not, but they got to start off messy, and a willingness to let it be a little bit messy and know that it's not perfect, but you were traveling and you were running your business kind of remotely. That's the best business because you never got an opportunity in your flip to run your flip like remotely because you were there all the time.
Right.
So, you know,
Yeah,
that's
true.
When you traveled, you got a little taste of the remote piece. It ain't fun at first, but it actually, the most growth happens in the remote piece of it.
Right.
And cause you still got it done. You were probably getting on the phone, you were hustling, you were getting people to do
I
stuff for you.
was, but I felt like my team my one-man team back here, not Nick, he was long gone in the wind, but the guy who I had replaced to fix those last little things, I felt like he was like, but I repaired it. And I'm like, okay, but no, this is what I need you to do.
Yeah,
So
he didn't follow your instructions.
Right. So I was dealing with some of that because I was ready to Amazon over a shower head. Like, dude, this is coming on Sunday. Like, what's your address? Oh no, I'm gonna repair it. And I'm like, ooh. So it was kind of like some of that.
It's just a breakdown in the communication, and you'll see less of that when you have people that are a little more like thoughtful and not like, you know, because you tell them to replace the shower head and then they don't, but then they say they did. Or
Right.
but then they're like, no, I repaired it. Well,
And
like,
it's fine, and
that's
it's
kind of
working
a lie.
fine.
You know, that's
Yeah.
like the people are
Yeah.
looking at that like a lie,
Right.
even though
Exactly.
it wasn't a big deal. They were just like, you know, they were getting
Right.
frustrated by it. So
Yeah.
eventually, like the only way you know that is when you test people, though. The only way you can tell when people need help is you got to put them into the fire. And
Mhm.
when you put them into the fire, unfortunately, that's hard for us. So
Mhm.
it's like the saying, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. Well,
Right.
you were making an omelet while you were in Florida and Texas, right? You're traveling, you're having fun, and you're making an omelet. And the omelet
Yeah.
does, you know, if you look at it from the positive side, there's some education and learning that you got there, and some
For sure.
experience that is going to be really needed for the future you and for the future version of your business.
Yeah.
So when you guys hear the story of like the last time I got ripped off by a GC was 3 years ago. I went to Vegas for 3 weeks. And people are like, what did you go to Vegas for 3 weeks for? Well, I used to be a dating coach for a while. So I was still doing that a little bit when I was getting into this. And
Are
so
you
I was in,
serious?
yes, I was. And I got into it because I was a business coach before I was, you know, my partner wouldn't let me teach people house flipping. So I became a business
So
coach.
you became a
And
hitch. You became a hitch.
not by choice, but I
Okay.
had a guy who paid me a lot of money to consult with him and help him create systems in his business, which I did the same thing I'm doing for you guys, but I did it for different businesses. His business happened to be dating coach. Well, kind of funny enough, I was going through a divorce, so I got very interested in it. Then I started learning it. And as I learned his whole business, I learned to become a dating coach. Now, I never wanted to be a dating coach. I was more of an assistant dating coach. Let's call me like more assistant, because I never wanted to be a series coach, because like no one likes dating coaches apparently. I guess they just like, I don't know. It seems like cool, but no one likes that. Plus, I didn't never want to do that. I didn't want to be out like helping dudes who can't find women. That was not my thing. I enjoyed it with him, and I get very interested in things. So I helped him break his business down. I helped him create seminars he was going to. So I helped him train his other people so he didn't have to keep doing it, because that was his big complaint. He had 5 years of doing seminars, like 40 weekends a year across the world. You know, he went everywhere in the world, and it was fun for a couple years, but then he got worn out by it. So I was in Vegas for 3 weeks so that I could spend a lot of time with him. But I also did it strategically for my business, because my coach said that if I go away and I only can work, this is how I went down to working a few hours a day, by the way. So before I went and did this for 3 weeks, I was working 8, 9, 10 hours a day like everyone else. And he says, I want you to travel away, do something you want to really do this dating thing with him. Like it's going to be fun. You're single now. So it'd be cool, right, to be able to spend that 3 weeks. I spent the 3 weeks with him, and it only allowed me to work 2 to 3 hours a day. And he's like, what you're going to figure out is how to compress all of your work into 3 hours a day. So in that 3 weeks, I was making a lot of omelets, but I'm going to tell you right now, my 3 hours was total stress, like total stress. Like it was not fun. And honestly, it was hard, but it was almost like I was forging diamonds in the, you know, in the fire, because when I came back, I wasn't able to go from 10 hours down to 3 or 4, but I was like every day now was easily getting done in 4 or 5 or 6 max. You know, I was done by 1 o'clock, where before I'd find myself working till 5 or 6 and it just never turned off. I was able, because I started figuring it out, and then I started consciously making an effort to run my business in half a day. And so now that within a couple months of doing that 3 week vacation, where I just worked a couple hours every day, I was able to get like my business down to like half a day. Right. And, you know, the fun half a day, I had to cut out all the stuff I didn't like. And I had to say no to things, which is not easy. I had to say, no, I can't do that, unfortunately, because I could do it, but it wouldn't help me stay in my genius zone of like what I really want to do. And that's find deals, that's analyze the deals, it's, you know, do the designs, make sure my deal flow is good, make my money good, you know, optimize my business, be in the really good part of my business, not getting a tool from Home Depot. Like I was doing that beforehand. I need a tool. I'd be like, oh, I'll go throw it my Jeep or something, right? I'll go work it out, because I was a problem solver and I liked coming in and saving things. But he told me that was actually my big weakness, is that I don't like to see things fail. So I will go above and beyond and work way too many hours to make sure nothing fails. And he's like, what would happen if some of these things failed? Like, what would be the outcome? Well, the only bad thing that happened in that 3 weeks is that guy ripped us off. And I'm not 100% certain that that wouldn't have happened if I was here, because the guy was pretty good, to be honest. And actually, when we first hired him, I was here. So I part of like staying on him throughout the 3 weeks. So I got ripped off for $9,000, but I mean, no big deal. Everything else went well. There's a lot of little dumb things that didn't go well that stressed me out, but I started to get an understanding that it's okay when things don't work out, because see, really all you want to judge your deal by is that, did you get to the finish line? Did you make money? Did you do something that 90% of other people have not done? And the answer is yes, 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 across the board. right? The journey is like all part of the, you learning and getting better. And that's just the way it is. Things are tougher when we're new. And, and they're really tough if you don't have a mentor and you don't know anything, you're doing it completely wrong. They're actually impossible most of the time. So the fact that you got the result, the only way we really calculate things is what result did you get? I know your result was good. That's all that matters. See, that's when we start to get very narrowly focused. Like when I look at my business over the last 2 years, which I'm going to be doing in the next month or two, I'm going to go deep dive into my last 2 years to see how I can optimize it. I'm not going to be looking at the time the guy didn't show up for 3 days, or time I had to fire the contractor, or the time that someone stole my saw, or or the time that I went under contract and it fell apart. I don't care about all those eggs that got broken. I'm going to look at one thing, like how much did I make on each house? Like overall, it's the big picture. So, and that's what we'll be focusing on, because that's what really matters, and that's what drives the needle forward. Now, day to day, we got to worry about these things, and we do the best. But me and you were in complete problem solving mode for like a 2 days straight, and I only look at it at the end of the day like we did it. What it would have been super sad is if we'd have done all that and it would have fell apart.
Yes.
So I was like, that I would have been like, okay, that sucks. Now that was a lesson that I like learning the lesson, but then having the result, that's pretty cool, because like, look, we got to see a different side of ourselves. We got to stretch a little bit. You stretched, I had to stretch, my mom had to stretch a little, right? We were all stretching to get the deal done. And that's a very positive thing, even though it doesn't feel good when we stretch outside of our comfort zone, but we did. And things will feel easier in the future when you don't have to do all that, right? It'll be like, oh, okay, cool. In comparison to that. And I think you stretched a little bit with doing that as your first house. And like, I think Steve and Cinnamon are stretching a little, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. But it's also not a bad thing to do a 30 or 40K renovation. It's, if you can get one and that's your first deal, then that's awesome too. But at some point you will have to stretch and do a bigger house, or, take on a bigger project. I find it's way more strategic to do it once you have a little bit of experience and have some people behind you. But if not, then, you're just going to have to bust your butt like you did, by the way. You worked hard. Yeah.
My next project is going to be half the size of that house.
Well, I would say that's going to be true statement most of the time, since your house is 2,500 square feet. So did you have a house already picked?
No, well, not yet. I have a row home that's waiting in the wings, but he's got to do some stuff with the estate thing. So
is that row home in that same area as the one you wholesaled?
Yes.
Can you wholesale that one?
I could.
Well, let me tell you why, because
get my hands on it. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you why you might want to consider, just from a strategic standpoint. That's in a little bit of an iffy neighborhood with iffy comps. Not saying you won't sell and you won't make money, but my experience has been all of my houses that I've done in areas like that have been more disappointing than they've been, really happy times, right? They don't tend to have as much upside. Like on your house, because it was so big, beautiful, and special, we had upside. We ended up getting more than we expected. Right. And that was awesome. So it's great to experience upside. When you're in an area where the comps are like 140, 150, 120, those areas tend to give you more downside than the upside, because the buyer pool is really weak, and the buyers in general, the overall buyer pool is small, but it's also not really all that qualified. The team, the agents, like if we ever list a house in an area like that, we know we're just doing the other person's job. Like we're just like, the other person's going to come in, they're going to be like, it's basically where if somebody's doing like their first deal, they get sent, or if someone just sucks at being a realtor, they get sent to doing 125K houses. Like it's almost like the graveyard for realtors, and they generally, like, everyone around them sucks. And I'm sorry if anyone's doing those kind of deals, but like their mortgage team sucks, and they always have grants, and they have a lot of stuff. So I'm saying this not to scare you off, because like I know like Marlo's doing one in an area that's similar to that, not quite as your neighborhood's not quite as good as his. His is a little more put together, but he's gonna have a few more problems that need to be navigated. He's gonna need an expert navigating them with him. He's going to have to figure that out. Yeah.
So when you say iffy comps, are you talking about just a few comps, or lower price, or just
so iffy comps meaning like they're inconsistent. You'll see some higher sold, some lower solds. Time of year will be really like, you just don't know. It's kind of like the stock market going up and down. Like when you get in a really nice neighborhood, the comps tend to be really solid. Like you always know you'll get 280, 300, 400. You'll know that's what this house sells for. When you get into different neighborhoods that are a little more sketchy, a little more, a little bit of crime going on in them, they're low price points. They're definitely not like, the schools are rated like a 2, right? That neighborhood is going to, like I've seen times in the winter where it just won't sell. Like, it's Christmas time and it just won't sell for whatever reason. Or maybe going back to school. they tend to do best in the spring. If you were going to do a house in a neighborhood like that, Marlo and Darshan, who are both doing houses in Edmondson Village, which is a slightly iffy neighborhood, well, they're in the perfect time of year to do houses in that neighborhood because there is a 3 to 4 month window in that neighborhood where it performs as well as other neighborhoods. And that's spring because I know this sounds crazy, but I did a lot of deep research on this. The people in that neighborhood, most of them are buying the houses and their down payment is being taken from their tax returns. Yeah, they're getting 3 to 4K in tax, and that's like usually all they're bringing to the deal with the grants and FHA loan. They're usually just bringing like 3 to 5K to the deal, and that's it. So they're not putting a lot of money in. So you get a less educated buyer, you get less educated team around the buyer. Everything's a little more unpredictable. You get more of like what happened last minute on your house. You'll get a lot of little things like that. Any house, the only houses I can give you examples that it took me, I went under contract for a 30-day settlement and it had taken 3 to 4 months was in areas like that. And it always revolved around grants and stuff. So you're going to get more FHA, more grants, and less conventional, less VA. Conventional and VA is a little more consistent, a little more better, right? So a little more you can count on it. Now, like your house, Jeff, is going to be a much higher price point. So you're not going to see grants at all. You're not going to see much FHA, honestly. You're going to be seeing mostly conventional and probably VA. That's good. That's a good thing. And your buyers, the people that are running around selling $800,000 or $700,000 homes, well, keep in mind, that's probably like one of the better agents in the office potentially. So that's going to have a better team. That person's going to know how to control the outcome of when they put a house under contract. They've learned that's how they get to selling $700,000 and $800,000 home. They know how to put a house under contract, and they have a team around them that knows how to get the settlement. But not when you work with the bad news bearers of Edmondson Village, right? So those people need a little, I basically do their job for them is the way I handle it. I'm just like, I tell my mom, I'm like, everything they should do, I want you to do and make sure they've done, or you do it for them. So we put a checklist together and we just follow through. Anytime we have a house in a neighborhood like that, that's what's worked for us. That's the best way to control it, is just go in there and do their job for them, which I'm totally fine with. I just want my deal to go well. But even with doing all those things and going that above and beyond, it's still a lot of little things pop up. And when I go back and look at my deals over the years, my average in those neighborhoods is much lower than my average in better neighborhoods. So what I would do, Samir, or consider doing is when you're ready and your timing feels good again, is now you've got your money back and you could buy another home, is I would start also looking in better neighborhoods that would be much easier, like somewhere between like a 200 to 300K ARV, which will be a much easier strong point sell. You'll get a better team. If you don't find a deal and that deal comes up and it's the first thing in front of you, then you can make that decision. But if what if that thing takes 3 or 4 months, and then you could have probably done another flip in that time. That's the thing about the probate and all that. You don't know how long it's going to take.
Right.
So I would just hedge my bets a little and start looking for other homes. And if you find something awesome, you could always wholesale that deal if the timing's not right, and, make some money like you did on the last one. Or you can take maybe it'll be ready for you to be your third flip potentially.
Right.
You don't know, but.
What zip codes would you recommend looking into? Just, you know more about Baltimore than.
Well, the zip code you were in is obviously a really good zip code. Most houses in that zip code are only 12 to 1,600 square feet. They're not, not like 2,500 square feet. So most of them are going to be a lot easier. That zip code's a home run. I just consistently always find deals in that area.
I don't want to drive to that area anymore.
I know.
I mean, more on the other side.
I know. So then the next area that's a little more closer to you would be 21207 is a solid area, which is like the Liberty Road. It's 695, like Liberty Road, Security Boulevard.
That's what I'm looking for.
You could take like 70 from back door, around Gaithersburg and go back.
That's what I prefer. Yes.
So that'll save you quite a bit of time, probably a half-hour drive, right?
And tolls too. So, yeah.
Oh, you go through the tunnel. That's right. Okay.
Sometimes when I had to be there at a certain time, I would take 695. Otherwise, I would just get on the toll just to make sure I get there quicker. So. Yeah.
I think you need to make the adjustment of just moving to that neighborhood and just be like, crush it. Unlimited flips, man. In PG County is obviously, you could be looking in PG County because Glory's finding deals there, and she asked her for some help. She might find you a deal and wholesale you something because PG is obviously fairly close for you too. And PG has a lot of upside in my experience. Every deal I do in PG, I tend to get more than I expected. So I love PG for that reason. It's going to be a little more work finding a deal. So they're the areas I would recommend right now. You can always look in Glen Burnie, Pasadena. Like I just picked one up in Pasadena. That's not too far because you can go around 50, which isn't awful. There's a couple of opportunities, but nothing close. And obviously if you can find anything in your area, But, I would look the closest areas to you.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're right. Hamilton is about as far as you can get from your house. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to go there. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And then even that one in the city, like that's kind of difficult to get to. That'll be as bad or as, just as bad as Hamilton.
Mm.
Cause like time you do cause you don't have any like beltway exit you can get off of and go right to it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go like in the city and then in the city and farther in the city. It's like,
Yeah.
kind of in the middle, and just with lights and traffic and everything, it's going to definitely be a longer process to get to. So I'm always considering that. So for you, just start looking PG County for sure. And then maybe Montgomery, if you see anything that works, keep an eye on there, because you can check if you're doing what I teach, where you're looking really quickly and just looking for any low hanging fruit, then you could easily do that. Obviously, like that, not that specific deal that Gigi was looking at, but like that area of Catonsville is very, very close also.
Right.
Catonsville is really good, and it's even closer to you because a lot of the Catonsville you can get to back off 70.
Yeah.
Catonsville is not always going to have a lot of MLS deals, but it will have some, especially if you get to the city side of Catonsville, you'll see more.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think we're close to where Steve and Cinnamon live is actually like a really good area. We've done a lot of deals in that area. So that's I would just travel when you have to, but if I would just love if you could create like some choices, right? Like, oh, you know what, this one's way better. Like that's why every day I'm buying you here. I just told you I'm not buying any more deals for a while, but guess what, I just bought yesterday a deal because I have a sickness and you guys need to do an intervention on me. Just like I told you, I'm not buying any deals for 30 days. Well, guess what? Somebody called from my PPC ad that I talked to 4 months ago, and they're like, I'm ready to sell my house in Pasadena. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. I would have said no to anything, but not Pasadena. So I might wholesale it. I'm actually considering wholesaling it because, I might be in a situation where I need to do that, honestly. I'm trying to quickly make that assessment. She won't be out of it until next Monday, and I'll have the freedom to show it to people. But and I got like 3 or 4 weeks to settle. But she called me back from, like, I sat with her, and this was really actually interesting on how I got the deal. She talked to 4 people, and all 4 people told her 200 and whatever 25,000, right? They told the exact same price. And she's like, but I wrote on yours that I liked you. And when I told you like how we sit and we talk to people, I talked to her for an hour and a half. She's a Southwest flight attendant. She was moving to Florida. Where she was moving to is called Merritt Island. Me and Tanya, last time we were at Cocoa Beach and like Cape Canaveral area, we actually went riding around and we found this little cool area called Merritt Island. And I was like, oh, I know Merritt Island. I was like, oh, we ate at this place. So like I knew Merritt Island, and then I was like, Southwest, I love Southwest. I'm like, I pulled my card out. I'm showing her my Southwest card. And we talked for like an hour and a half, and she was just a very outgoing person. And for whatever reason, I'm sure most other people came in and they were down the business. Like they just got down the business, made their offer, and me not getting down the business. And she didn't ask me to give her a penny more. She was just like, yeah, I'll take the number.
Hey, Mike, how do you manage a flip in Pasadena when you're living in Baltimore?
Well, Pasadena is where I live, actually. So I live in Pasadena, Maryland, not Pasadena, California.
I thought it was Pasadena, California.
Yeah, it's not. It's Maryland loves to steal names. I grew up in Brooklyn, right? In Brooklyn, Maryland, not Brooklyn, New York. So yeah, apparently Maryland loves to steal names from other people.
And we have Hollywood, Maryland too.
Yeah, we have Hollywood, Maryland. We have which no one lives in, but it's very far out there. But yeah, we got Brooklyn, where I grew up, and I live in Pasadena, which is funny, kind of, and so that's the reason I bought the house, Jeff, because it literally is like 1.5 miles from where I live, 2 miles from where I live. But with that being said, it might be a bad time for me. But I might have an option. I don't have anything under contract. I only own stuff. So I gotta, I don't know. I might be able to, I might just sell this off and call it a day. It's a great house. It's on 2 acres, and it's like a really nice rancher on a really big piece of property in a very, very desirable part of Pasadena. Like just really nice. Everything's like 400 to 500K. Thinking the ARVs in the high 3s. Bought it for 225. It's about 65 in work. Probably about 100K spread on it. So there's some money in it pretty solidly. It's probably about 385. I actually could run the numbers now and I'll tell you. Let's see. 385. 65 in work. When I worked these numbers out yesterday when I was buying it, it worked. No, so it's not quite as good, but I actually think I might be able to cut that number down some. And it might, and I think, so the problem is when I started looking at it, I've seen comps all day over 400. They just weren't where I was. And the thing is, where I am, I think is better. The comps I've seen, they were like 399 and 420 and 410, Well, they're like half-acre lots. I have a 2-acre lot, which is really unusual for this area. I mean, I'm talking like 2 acres, and it's flat and square, and I have the biggest yard you've ever seen. Like, it is unreal. Like, it's all treed, but it's not woods. It's a real 2-acre lot of, like, you see every ounce of it. It's pretty awesome. So I'm thinking that I don't always like to give a lot of money for those kind of things, but I'm thinking that, I didn't see any comps of 2 acres, and I'm thinking that's going to get me. I'm doing 385 conservatively, but I think I'll get more because there's a lot of comps around there that suggest I would. Stuff that's like a quarter mile away and it's getting like 399. Maybe it's 100 square foot bigger, but it's got a lot that's a half acre, a quarter acre, a half acre versus 2. We'll see. I'm confident in my numbers though, so I always use the conservative number. So, okay, now I know why the profit's wrong. Got it. Just fix that. So that's the profit that's my profit. Forgot, I don't have to pay a listing agent. So profit's going to be about 38 for somebody normal person, and for me, it's about 46. I knew there was I thought it was a better deal than that. Okay, of course, I don't have that cost. So yeah, me being able to list it just made that deal a lot sweeter. I would take it either way because it's not a hard house. It's a very clean, easy house in a great neighborhood, and it's very close to home. So yeah, I'll probably be rehabbing it. I don't know. I got to think through it the next couple of days and decide. I got to do my deal flow analysis, and that's how I do in every house. I stay open. I stay very open to I don't, as much as I know I want to rehab that being close to home. If I look at my finances, I look at my deal flow, my management of people, how many people I got, and I decide that it wouldn't be a good idea to rehab this, I'm going to sell it off. I'm going to make, 5, 10K, whatever it is. I might even go back and renegotiate the lady. I mean, I have a lot of options just so I can make more profit, but I won't renegotiate her until I have someone under contract. So let's just say that I sold it to Samira for 230 instead of 225, and I'm making 5K. Because I know I have it sold to Samira, I have now the opportunity to go back and have a conversation and try to get it cheaper. If she says no, I'll just make my 5K and move on. But most of the time people say yes, and I can make more money. That's just the thing you can do. You don't have to do it. I've done it many times and it works surprisingly well. So yeah, I mean, there's some of my options. And for me, I don't mind making a couple bucks on it because it makes my campaign profitable. And I already got my guys. Like, for me, Pasadena is easier, but also I got another house in Pasadena. I got my own house in Pasadena. So I might find that I got too much going on. Probably so. That's the reason I was supposed to be cut off. But when someone calls and says, I got a house, you put it under contract because I know someone else will want it. I could throw it on the MLS and sell it very quickly. It's actually a very livable, clean house. The reason it's 65 is because we got it we got to bring it up to that high standard, but she's living in it right now and it's not dirty. I mean, you could just move into it today exactly like it is. So one thing I might want to consider, and I guess I haven't thought about, is maybe just buying it, doing almost nothing to it, and then just remarketing it for more money. Trying to maybe just settling it and then throwing maybe 5K and clean up and then just putting it back on the market as a homeowner house for 300, 310. That might be actually even a better idea. We'll see. I'll think through everything, right? I got time. I got 3 to 4 weeks to figure it all out, figure out what I'm going to do with it. This would be a house where I could do that. I normally can't do that. Like we do a Hamilton, you can't do that. But in Pasadena, people will buy this house just the way it is, livable for a discount, 2 acres. They'll be more than happy to own this. Because there ain't much on the market there for cheap. I mean, 300, everything's high 300s. Good schools are rated at 9. That's why too, by the way, if anybody's wondering why it's so expensive there for Maryland. Yeah, the school around the corner is rated, high school is rated at 9, which is very high. Versus your other flip is probably rated a 1. Look up your high schools. That's always good. Don't always do everything by that, but I mean, obviously you're in a very nice, when you start getting 7, 6, and 7 and above, generally you're in a very good neighborhood. But most of the flips I do, I would bet that the Hamilton house you did is probably more like a 3. So it's not like it's the end. People still buy there. What's up, Steve?
Quick question about, I guess, lumber material. Is there a percentage? I know when you do flooring, isn't there usually a 10% waste? Is the same thing with framing and subfloor?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, you could use 10%. You're gonna have a little waste.
10%?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, did I tell you about taking and once you get your lumber order, taking it to and shopping it at Home Depot, 84 Lumber, and then a place called Ritchie Lumber?
Yes, you did. I'm
Okay.
actually gonna go to Home Depot today, get them to do the bedroom, and then then take it over to 84 Lumber and then Richie. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and you know what you can do. I mean, you can take it to them if you'd like, or you can just like email it over and
Well,
call them on the phone.
call
Save
them. Yeah,
yourself some
yeah.
time. Yeah, call them. Just say, hey, I'm gonna send it over. Can you give me a quote? And they'll usually get back to you pretty quickly. It's worth looking at because it sounds like you got all your stuff together. And once you get your quote, let me know once you get your quote if you got more questions. Because if something don't seem right, then that's a good time to dig in. Like you feel like, I don't know, this seems like a lot. Because how much is it? That's always going to be. If it starts sounding like a crazy number, if it's cheap, then don't worry about it. It's probably good. But if it starts like next thing you know, it's $5,800 in lumber, that would be a lot.
Right. Okay. And Mike, do you use that adhesive or liquid nails when you do the subfloors?
I don't think you need to know.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, but I mean, no, it's not a standard that I would follow.
Yeah, it's like $3 a tube, so I wasn't sure if that was just
For all the floor you have to do, that's going to be a couple $100. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I don't think it's necessary to be upfront, and I know it's not a standard most people follow. Usually, people put in what are you putting as a subfloor? Did you decide on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the OSB.
OSB 5/8.
It's 2332, so it's just like just over .70 or like .71, I believe it is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. You probably don't need OSB is fine, by the way, and especially if it's that thick. That's almost a 3/4 inch. It sounds like it's 3/4 inch. That's probably just
Yeah,
sized
it's
up a little
almost, and it's actually cheaper than the 1932, which is just like .51 ish somewhere. So.
bit. Oh, it's cheaper than the other OSB. You're saying?
Correct, the thinner
Oh,
OSB.
cool.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, OSB is pretty OSB is a waffle board. You ever seen stuff looks particle? That's OSB.
Yeah.
So when he's talking about the subfloor, so subfloors come in OSB, which is like a bunch of particles like glued together. So it's cheaper and but not quite as good. And then you have plywood, right? They're made out of subfloors made of plywood. The plywood's going to be much better, but it also is a lot more expensive. It's almost double the cost. Not really necessary. I would say most houses are being built on OSB these days, especially if it's like 3/4 inch. And yeah, it's up to you if you want to liquid nail it. I mean, maybe you would liquid nail it since it's on a little older subfloor and all that. So I probably would go ahead and get the liquid nail for OSB. So they do tend to do liquid nail and OSB a little bit more because it is not as quite as sturdy, and it'll help kind of make sure there's not a lot of creaks and stuff in the floor.
Okay.
So yeah, tell them they don't have to go crazy with it.
And then, Mike, I was gonna call the pro desk, and if I have any issues, because I think I went twice now. I know the first time was with customer service,
Mm-hmm.
but they tend to want to charge me the $89 for shipping. Just say, we talked about this. Just have them call the account manager.
No, man, just tell them we don't pay it. No, that lady, they'll never charge you that ever. Not if you're talking to my pro. If you're talking to the pro desk, they'll know. The customer service doesn't know. They don't. They're telling you what they think. They don't. I have a special plan they gave me to keep. I spend over $1 million a year with them. So between you guys, I mean, I spend 900 of it. You guys probably spend 150 of it between you and a couple other students. But the bottom line is we're over $1 million a year. There's no one else in Maryland that's spending as much money as we are, like with Home Depot specifically. So, we're the number one account in this area. And then, so we negotiated that because Lowe's came to me and said they were going to give me X, Y, Z, and then negotiated. So I've never have a problem with it. If you do, just say, hey, man, if you're calling you're calling Lansdowne, you're calling any of the ones that we commonly deal with, this won't be an issue. So, because they know, it comes right up on my account. You go to Lansdowne, Glen Burnie knows us really well. Glen Burnie, Lansdowne knows us, Dundalk knows us. So those three are kind of the best three to go to. They're the ones that seem to be the best at getting you the materials. Because that's a good lesson for everyone else too, is you'll notice not every Home Depot is equal. Some Home Depots have some, they got some, I don't call people stupid. I just want to say that maybe they're like the C players, maybe the people who didn't make the team are kind of at the pro desk and they're just not doing all that great and they're not all that sharp. Couple of locations in Maryland that really crush it, the locations that have the most contractors working at them, they tend to put really good people there. Like we used to have a lady named Lisa who worked at the Glen Burnie Home Depot who we tried to hire. She was so good. And she was just, you'd call her and she would make stuff happen. She'd like, oh, I got this deal. I'm going to call the manager, get this cut down. I'll have this for you. I'll fix that. I'll do that. And she did it every time she told you she was going to do it. We really tried to hire her, but she she wanted to follow her passion. She actually got away from working for Home Depot and got into childcare because she had always dreamed of doing that. But she was a get stuff done person, you know. And there's people like that. So you get the better pro desk have better people. Dundalk's probably the best, and Lansdowne's definitely one of the top ones too.
Okay. Hey, Mike, what's like the cutoff for like next day delivery, or are you aware of that?
I would probably say, yeah, the cutoff, you got to call and find out when they have availability. So generally I would try to give 2 days, but they can do it sometimes. If you call like this morning and you try to get the next day, that might be possible, but it's going to vary depending on their scheduling and their availability.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Thanks, Mike.
So you get it a couple days in advance, obviously, to be safe, because it's a pretty big order and it might require, like, you don't want to be somebody waiting. So you might want to just try to get it a day early or something.
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right, cool, man.
Hey, Mike, I had a question. Looking back on my project, the issue that I dealt with the water in that space, what would you suggested, I guess, this was an issue that I noticed over the summer, but the waterproofing, like, could you tell me more about that, or could we cover that at another time?
Yeah, no, we can talk about it. So Samara had a situation where water came in. She had first she had a waterproof basement. She had tile drain around the basement, but then there was this area that you walked out the back door, and it was like a hallway that went out, like, it was pretty
the
long.
Cellar
like,
doors, yeah.
Yeah, it went out to the basement
backyard.
doors, but they didn't waterproof that area. So that was the thing. They never waterproofed that area, so the water was coming in there, and then it was just running from there into the home, but it was actually running into the French drain.
Right.
But you can't have a whole area filled up with water in the house. So it was working technically, but not acceptable, right? I mean, under any circumstance, because
it had rained a lot that time too. So
yeah, but it was like an inch, right? I went in there and it was
when
like about an inch of water in there, and it's just sitting there, and that creates mold. It just creates scared clients. Like, people are up, oh my God, what is that? It will get worse. Will it be a problem? So all we would have did to fix that is just waterproof the perimeter, much like they had done on the inside side, and tie it in. And it cost that probably been about $1,500, because this hallway, when we say hallway, it's usually like maybe 6 or 7 foot for a hallway. This one was actually 20 foot long. I mean, it's a really long hallway. So that's why it was a little more money to waterproof it, because you actually were doing 20 foot of wall, 5 foot, and then 20 foot of wall. So it was like 45 foot. A basement's only about 100. So you literally, in that little crazy hallway, you had like half a basement. It was that much to waterproof, but you didn't have a sump pump. You didn't, and obviously I can do things cheaper. So we were going to give them, I mean, that guy's paying way. He probably is not getting someone, the money you gave him, I doubt he's getting someone to fix it for that price.
Yeah.
He's probably going to pay more. So he was stupid, because I gave him a $2,000 estimate. I knew I could easily cover that and make sure I didn't lose money on it. And I'm sure he'll pay $4,000 or $5,000 for it easily. But, that's why when he said 3, we were like, it made sense, because it was a good common ground. So, the cost of that was like at least $1,500 to $2,000, because there was a lot of like room to do. So it didn't seem like it. When you talking about doing a hallway, you think like, oh, that's not a big deal. But it was literally 20 foot long on each side, 5 foot on that. So you're 45 feet. So sometimes that was sneaky more expensive. A basement generally is 100. Like, your basement's probably 130 total, would be roughly my guess. So the basement, the thing is, when there's water coming through at any level, like, it creeps people out.
Right.
And it makes them really afraid. You heard about that deal I lost where the lady freaked out because she pulled the black stuff that is in the waterproofing out and looked behind it and said, there's water coming in the house.
Right.
And we're all like, well, where's our water? We waterproofed it. We're all like, me and Tanya went out there at 9 o'clock at night with a flashlight, like, oh my God, there's water in the house. And then we called the lady, like, where's the water at? She's like, no, it's coming in. And she sent me a video of it. She took and put her phone behind the black stuff and looked at the water. Well, that's where the water comes in. So waterproofing system, we strategically are letting that come in. So that's my point I'm making, is that she got creeped out about water coming in where it was supposed to come in.
Right.
This is how crazy people are about that. They get really out of hand about it. And so we want to make sure if there's any sign of moisture, mold, discoloration, water coming in, we want 100% go above and beyond, give paperwork for it, make sure that, because what happens is, and this is something that just happened to me recently and I'm dealing with it now, what will happen is, if they take and get a waterproofing company out there, they are not going to tell them anything other than, you got black toxic mold, there's asbestos that's coming in the drain through the ceiling that's floating in the air, and you basically, your kids are probably going to end up drowning when the water comes in.
Right.
You'll lose all your children, they'll die.
Mhm.
But you know what? If you don't want that, then you just give us 25,000, we'll fix it. This is their sales technique. It's very effective. I mean, people are like, oh my God, I want to kill my children. Like, I'll lose my kids. They're all going to end up with like a third year and brain damage. You're probably not going to do well in school. They're probably going to have ADHD because you didn't fix this water problem. It's just 25K not to have that. Like, if you want to be a good mother, just pay this. This is
So
the shit they do. So we don't
Right.
want that ever. We don't want them coming in, that person.
Right.
Because once someone hears that, there ain't nothing I can say to take that away.
Right. So I guess to deal with my issue though, would you have recommended doing French drains like down each side of the sidewalk?
Yeah. Well, around the whole perimeter of that
Okay.
little hallway. Yeah. Of that
Yeah.
hallway. I was going to do it around all 3 perimeters and then tie it into the drain inside. Just have a pipe that took it into the trench drain.
Got you. Because
So, yeah.
and actually, because when you're walking up the stairs, the wood stairs were there, and then the doors open up.
Mhm.
So when it rained, though, that behind the stairs, that concrete there is where water was coming, seeping
Yeah, exactly
through the
where it's
concrete.
coming in.
So that
The
would have been
reason- the
need to be
reason-
addressed too. The concrete.
Actually, you're
behind it?
right. No, so there was a better way I found to do it. So I'm glad you just said that because I actually did the drawing and sent
Right.
it to him. No, we were actually going to do is we were going to just waterproof one part of it and then run it into a center drain that ran down, which was going to, that's why it was 1,500 because I was even just in there thinking like it'd be more than 1,500. No, we were going to just take and waterproof where it was coming in the back and then run it to a center drain that ran down the center of the walkway and then connect it in. But we still had to cut out drain for almost 20 feet that would connect in.
Gotcha.
So that was kind of what was going. Because you're right, we didn't need to waterproof the other walls because they weren't outside. They were
Right.
inside the house, so they didn't have anything coming in. I did a
Okay.
drawing, and if I'd have looked at the drawing, I would have remembered that. But yeah, the drawing, we only had to waterproof the outside wall and then around a little bit and then bring it into like a Y.
I guess offline, could I see that? Can I have that drawing just so that I could see? I mean, just for future.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, because like I
did send
said,
it to?
I realized that this was a thing over the summer, and we talked about it, I guess glancing over that, oh, you already have a waterproofing, that it'll be fine. But it just happened to rain so much that week
Yeah, true.
that it became an issue. So,
Yeah, let's see if we have it, and I'll show it to you.
yeah.
See if I can
Just-
Hey, Mike, can you touch on the French drain a little bit? Just because I know Michelle actually has one for our house, and I'm not familiar with that. So,
Well,
is there
Michelle,
digging
why would she
involved,
have
or
she has a French drain for your house? What does that even mean? Why would she have a
she
French
wants us
drain?
to? Yeah, she wants us to add a French drain in the basement, I believe.
I think she just for code you have to add a sump pump, but I don't think you need to add a French drain because you have a row home, so you only French drain around outside walls. So maybe what she's talking about is doing a French drain on the back wall and a sump pump. They do make you put a sump pump into the code, like that is a code thing that has to happen. So I think maybe instead of it being a French drain, it might actually be a sump pump that you're putting in. And if it was a French drain, it would probably just be the back wall of the house. So, because I don't know that you actually have any water coming in. You can't have it coming in from the sides because your neighbors are there. So it could only really come in the front or back of your house. So a French drain is just when you dig a trench and you poke holes in the wall and you strategically allow the water to come in. And then when it comes in, it goes into a pipe. That pipe runs into a sump pump. The sump pump just pumps it out to the back into the yard and it manages. It's a water management system. So that's what it's used for.
Okay.
So it's used for that. Let me see if I can find this here. Oh, yeah, I'll actually ask her. Do me a favor. I don't have it. I sent it to, can you email my mom, Samir, and just ask her for it? She'll send it to you because I did send it to her and I gave it to him and everything. So we had
Okay,
it, but
will do.
she
Thanks.
should have it somewhere on file.
Yeah,
Give it
I'm
to you.
just curious. Like, I just want to keep it with my stuff for the future. Like,
Yeah.
again, if I ever see that, I'm going to address it immediately because I don't want what happened to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, honestly, like the way to look at this is, yes, you should. The main reason that I would say you want to address it is not because you end up having to give them $3,000, because like it might have cost you like 1,500 or $2,000 any house. That wasn't the nightmare. The nightmare is the potential of them getting out of the deal.
Right.
Right. If I had managed,
Yes.
like I had that guy managed very well, and we chose very well when we picked this person because they did very much stick in the deal. They got a little frustrated at the end, got a little snippy, but for the most part, they were being pretty cool and they let a lot of things slide on, overall. So they were being pretty awesome until they kind of weren't, right? And then people usually have a bowling point and they reached it. So, we were lucky, but the key is the main reason I try to make sure water is like 100% tight is because a lot of times people they just leave. They're just
Right.
like, nah, I'm done. And now you're like, oh man, I got to sell it again.
Well, not only selling it, but again, I was thinking through that, the pros and the cons of not meeting together, because staging, if I were to stage it again,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it
you
has a mark on it. Like they're going to look at the house. I might not get what they offered.
I would
So
say
there
that's
was a lot
usually
of things.
true.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of momentum whenever you fall out of contract, because there will be certain people who'll be like, you'll still get a good offer. You sometimes, when my one that fell apart, I actually got a better offer.
Right.
That's uncommon though. Normally
Right.
I would say that the common
Yeah.
thing is I get the same number or less.
Right.
It's rare. I actually got 10 grand more when that person that came in and fell out. So I was going to sue them because they couldn't legally, got out the day of the contract. I'd already went to settlement.
Mm.
Before they signed the settlement papers, they said, we don't like waters coming in the house. I'm like, there's no water coming in the house. What? And then so that's why they got out. And I was like, and then they're still trying to fight me over the deposit. I'm like, you clearly are not getting your deposit back. You jumped out day of settlement with no valid reason. I even said, like, you want me to get a professional waterproofer there to explain to you what's going on. And if there's an issue, we'll fix it and take care of it. But, that way, no, I'm not interested. I'm just getting out of the deal. I think the cold feet. I think her mom came down, looked at it, and like talked her out of it. They're easily persuaded at that price point. And that's what happens a lot in the $130,000 range, by the way. 150 is that, like, you could be totally in the deal and they're so uneducated that they can easily be talked out of buying a home. Like, they can just have a friend say, oh my God, I can't believe you're buying that. You're a sucker. That house, oh, that neighborhood's awful. Someone got killed there. And they'd be like, all right, I don't want to buy it. My friend says it sucks. They're just not educated enough to stand their ground and be like, it's my house, man. F you, I'm buying it. I want it. I don't need you to tell me what to do. So you get them, they're very, I would say very flaky. So with the waterproofing, the reason you want to fix it is obviously we didn't want that falling apart. And then you're right, you got to do staging again. We'd have to put it back on the market with
mortgage or whatever.
The mortgage, the overall cost, even if you got the same number, you're talking like you're definitely losing thousands, and you still got to do the repair. Like the repair doesn't go away. It's not like anyone else is going to go for that repair either.
Right.
So yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, you would have lost a lot of money not doing it. So it was a very smart move. I would have been very persistent if you didn't take it, not because I wanted to get the deal done, because I'll do whatever's best for the deal, right? But I would have been persistent because I know your outcome would have been less. Because even if I got you the exact same number, which by the way, I couldn't get you more because you had an appraisal locking you down at that number.
Right.
So that appraisal sticks on the house for 6 months. So if we went and sold it for 20K more, you still can't get more than that appraisal. So that we knew for a fact we couldn't get more. So now you're talking about like doing the repair, $1,500, $2,000, your staging, your, chances of anything going wrong, your cost, holding cost, all that stuff. You would have been thousands of dollars down, even if we got the same outcome.
Right.
Like you said, I do agree. People sometimes do ask, you lose that momentum. Because think of how awesome your home was looked upon with it being on the market a week and it then being held out, and being all these offers and being negotiated. Like people were definitely like, oh, this is a very exclusive house I have to have. A lot of that's what pulled this guy to the end, by the way.
Right.
And a lot of that like belief of I got a really special home is what kind of kept him in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm so big on creating it. I know Nancy is doing a deal now, and she's we're going to talk about it later, and she's in a higher level group, and she's got people wanting to pre-look at it. And I'm just like, don't let anyone pre-look at it, because like the thing is, if you pre-look at it, they're going to get an offer in too quick. You're not going to give, you're going to not get time for the other people to come in and create that environment we like to create. It's only an advantage for them. It does no value for you. With Nikki, she let someone pre-look at it, but she let them pre-look at it strategically because she knew they were throwing around some really high numbers, like numbers a lot higher than what she expected to sell it for. So she's like, well, let me let them pre-look at it. And because they're talking like 380s and stuff when I was only thinking 350, 360. So she ended up getting 385 versus, she was going to list for 359.
So is there ever a time, I guess, if the appraisal came down lower, that the person still would offer more, or would you automatically just adjust it down like I did? Is the final price based off appraisal always?
Appraisal, because that's all they can get lent. I mean, there is times where I've had people continue into the appraisal, but that's just, that's not very common in that neighborhood because people aren't bringing a lot of cash to the table. It's more common in higher end neighborhoods. So
Gotcha.
a great example, like Jeff's neighborhood and Wee's neighborhood, their neighborhood's going to be higher price points. So it's very common that people will be putting a lot of money down. So if you could pre-negotiate an appraisal, like, hey, if it doesn't appraise, you're agreeing to take it as whatever, make up the difference.
Okay.
It's very hard to do it in areas like in Maryland where it's like 350 and under because most people aren't bringing much to the table and they're kind of cash poor. So like like legitimately for this deal, if we'd have said, hey, we want you to put the 5K up, he didn't have the 5K. I asked, by the way. So
Oh, okay.
I didn't just, I asked that first. I do a lot of negotiation before I even bring stuff to you because, you know, I want to softly ask and just see if that's even possible. And I told her, I was like, look, it appraised. And the point I made to him was it appraised under, but honestly, you guys got a lot of help and your help is the reason it under appraised. I think I made it valid. And she's like, I know. And I don't disagree. And I'm sure he'd be willing to do it. He just doesn't have the cash. I mean, and I think he'd be willing to do it. He just doesn't have the cash. And then she's like, and I was like, okay, that's what I just want to confirm he didn't have the cash. Sometimes they do. I've had people help out and I've had, you know, for the most part, we just work on making sure we get appraised as much as possible.
Right.
And when we do, it's small, like a small amount like yours was, like 5K is not the end of the world.
Which it wasn't bad. I mean, that was the highest sold in the area. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're now the highest sold in the area, which I also think is awesome too, because now other people will start getting that number and it'll start bringing the numbers up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, send her an email. She should have that and then you can look at it. But
okay, thank you.
I did a design and all that, trying to make it look professional. So any other questions? I have to go in about 5 minutes. If there's anything you guys want to answer quickly, I can jump on it. If not, I will see you guys in 2 weeks or Saturday at 9. And the link, by the way, is the same link that you got today. So it's always going to be the same link for all our calls. So if you guys save this link, you can jump on at the predetermined times and you never have to worry about finding the link again. Delante did one really great thing before he left. He said, hey, why don't we make all the calls the same link? And I was like, that's a really good idea because now we don't have to like worry about sending the wrong link for the wrong call. And so that's really helpful.
Hey, Mike, real quick, can I send you a video of the basement floor?
Yes.
Through email? Okay. I want you to take a look at it and get your thoughts.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Mike, are we still calling at 6:30?
What time?
Are we still talking at 6:30 today?
Yes, we are talking at 6:30 today. So sorry, I will see you guys at 6:30. Sorry about that. It sounded like I was going to forget about you, but no, 6:30. If you don't come to 6:30, then I'll see you in 2 weeks or Saturday. So I got 6:30 tonight and Saturday will be our last ones. Okay. And,
All right,
I'll talk to you guys later. See you.
All right, appreciate it.
See you guys.